A Volkswagen Golf abandoned for 30 years still starts again deep inside a silent forest, where dry leaves covered the ground and old trees stood motionless, like forgotten guardians of time. There was a car resting in the shadows. No one remembered exactly when it had been abandoned there. There were no fresh tire tracks, no sound of an engine, no sign of life at all. Only a rust-covered shell slowly being consumed by nature itself. The windows were shattered. The hood was buried beneath years of dead leaves. The interior looked destroyed beyond repair. At first glance, anyone would assume it was nothing more than worthless scrap metal, an old Volkswagen Golf left to rot in the wilderness for nearly 30 years. But then something unbelievable happened. When a group of car enthusiasts discovered the vehicle, they were not only curious about its history, they wanted to attempt something almost impossible. They wanted to see if this forgotten machine could still come back to life. And what happened next shocked millions of people around the world. Because sometimes miracles do not come from expensive, modern technology. Sometimes they come from things the world has already given up on. The Volkswagen Golf sat silently among the trees, as if it had become part of the forest itself. Grass had grown around the wheels. Rust covered nearly every inch of the body. The original paint had almost completely disappeared beneath decades of decay. Rain, snow, heat, and moisture had attacked the little car for years without mercy. Yet, somehow, it survived. The deeper the group looked, the more surprising things became. Despite the severe rust and damage, the structure of the car was still holding together remarkably well. It was proof of something people often say about old German engineering. These machines were built to last. Back when this Golf was made, cars were simpler. No giant TOUCHSE or ENS. No endless sensors. No complicated electronics controlling every tiny function. Just mechanical engineering, solid materials, and reliability. Modern vehicles may be faster, smarter, and filled with advanced technology, but many people believe they lack the soul and durability of older cars. One failed electronic module can completely disable a modern vehicle, but classic cars, like this Volkswagen Golf, were different. Their simplicity became their greatest strength. That simplicity is probably the reason this car survived 3 decades. In the middle of nowhere, when the group finally opened the hood, everyone held their breath. The metal creaked loudly. Dust and dirt fell from the engine bay. The smell of mold and old oil filled the cold air. And then they saw it. The engine was still there. Dirty, rusty. Covered in years of neglect, but not destroyed. The major components were still intact. And suddenly, for the first time, hope appeared. Of course, nobody could simply insert a key and start an abandoned car after 30 years. Doing that could destroy the engine instantly. So the restoration team began carefully inspecting every part. The old engine oil had turned into thick black sludge. The fuel system was clogged with rotten gasoline. The spark plugs were badly corroded. Wires had become brittle with age. Everywhere they looked, time had left its scars. It felt less like repairing a machine, and more like waking up a creature that had been asleep for decades. Then came the most critical moment. They needed to know if the engine was seized, if the internal parts could no longer move. The project would be over before it even began. The entire group went silent. One man slowly placed a tool onto the crankshaft and carefully applied pressure. For a second, nothing happened. Then suddenly, the engine moved, not smoothly. Not easily, but it moved. That tiny movement changed everything. It was like hearing the heartbeat of something long believed to be dead. Hours later, after replacing fluids, cleaning parts, and making temporary repairs, the team was finally ready to attempt the impossible. A fresh battery was connected. New fuel was added. Everyone gathered around the old Golf. Nobody knew what would happen next. Maybe the engine would stay silent forever. Maybe it would explode into smoke. Maybe it would fail immediately. The driver slowly sat inside the cracked interior and placed his hand on the key. The forest became completely silent. Then he turned the ignition. The starter motor groaned. KHUC, kuk. The engine cranked, but nothing happened. They tried again. This time there was a small pop from the exhaust before silence returned, but everyone could feel it. The car was trying to wake up. Then came the third attempt. The starter spun harder. Suddenly, boom! A cloud of smoke burst from the exhaust pipe. The engine violently shook. And then, it happened. The Volkswagen Golf, abandoned for 30 years, finally came back to life. The sound was rough. Uneven. Loud. Mechanical, but to the people standing there, it sounded beautiful. because they knew they were witnessing something extraordinary. A machine had defeated time itself. The video of the moment quickly spread across the internet. Millions of viewers could not believe what they were seeing. Comments flooded in from around the world. They don't build cars like this anymore. This is why I love old cars. But perhaps the most powerful comment of all simply said, the world abandoned this car, but the car never gave up. And maybe that is why this story touched so many people. It was never just about an old Volkswagen. It became something much deeper. A reminder that not everything old is worthless. A reminder that time does not always destroy greatness. A reminder that some things are built with so much care and quality that even decades of neglect cannot erase them completely. As the team continued inspecting the vehicle, they discovered small traces of the past hidden inside: an old coin, a lighter, faded paper stuffed inside the glove compartment. Tiny objects frozen in time. It made everyone wonder, who once owned this little car? Did it once carry a young family on road trips? Did someone drive it to work every morning? Did it witness memories, laughter, heartbreak, and entire years of someone's life before being forgotten forever? Every old car carries a story, not just metal and wheels, but memories. History. Emotion. And when the engine of that Volkswagen Golf roared back to life after 30 years of silence, it felt like the past itself had returned for one final moment. Of course, the restoration was far from complete. The brakes needed rebuilding, the tires were ruined, the interior would require enormous work, but none of that mattered anymore. Because the hardest part had already happened. The heart of the car was beating again. Many restoration experts say the first engine start is always the most emotional moment of any project. It feels less like fixing a vehicle and more like resurrecting history. That old Volkswagen Golf became a symbol of resilience, a forgotten machine buried in the woods that somehow refused to die. And maybe that is what makes this story unforgettable. A world obsessed with the newest technology, the newest cars, and the next big thing. This rusty little hatchback reminded millions of people about something important. True quality never disappears easily. Time may cover things in dust, people may forget, the world may move on, but sometimes all something needs is one more chance. And the sound echoing through that forest that day was not just an engine starting. It was the sound of memories returning, the sound of endurance, the sound of a legend refusing to stay silent forever. If a Volkswagen Golf abandoned for 30 years can come back to life, maybe there are still many things in this world waiting for their second chance.